Let's go. Ready.
The most feared men on the American gridiron roamed the field like wild beasts, looking for whom to devour. Receivers trembled at the very thought of having to cross the middle of the field. For decades, these men tormented all those who dared step foot in their arena. However, little did they know that the most destructive force of nature on the field lay right underneath their feet.
The Astrodome, the home of the Houston Oilers.
This is our artificial grass, or AstroTurf.
You've probably seen this stuff 1,000 times on TV football games. It's AstroTurf. AstroTurf is often criticized for leading to more injuries to players.
This turf is 4 times as soft as natural turf.
Now we're going to turn to those fields of artificial turf being installed more and more. They're easily maintained and said to be safe.
But a turf war is unfolding, with thousands of cleated soldiers on the front lines.
A non-contact thing on AstroTurf, trying to move to his left.
Mud Bowl games were a favorite among audiences. The mixture of grass, earth, water, and pigskin, harking back to the days of childhood. This is what football was at its core, a game of competition and fun, a game of nature and man. But that would all soon change.
With the installation at the Houston Astrodome in 1966, the swing to synthetic turf was on. The response has been overwhelming, and today more than 150 successful AstroTurf installations have been completed.
The introduction of AstroTurf would revolutionize America's game. Players became faster, hits became harder. Mud bowls were now a thing of the past. The future had arrived. And atop this new innovation, some of the NFL's most iconic moments occurred. The famed Immaculate Reception, the Dolphins' 1972 undefeated season, the miracle at the Meadowlands, Walter Payton's dominant 1984 season, the Bears' defense of the 1980s would all take place atop AstroTurf. But behind the iconic moments sewed into the NFL's lore, a disturbing trend would slowly begin to emerge.
Into its trail, rolls of energy-absorbing underpads are carefully laid to cushion the fall.
If you didn't want to fall, you really learned how to bounce and fall on stuff. We just tore ourselves off. It was brutal.
Well, the way he's beating that turf, it's not good news for the New York Jets.
What was initially hailed as the future of the NFL, AstroTurf would begin to destroy careers. With devastating injury after injury, the facade of safety and injury reduction the creators, Monsanto, had preached would soon fade away. While the traction the turf provided led to a faster, more exciting game, it soon proved to be devastating to a player's health. The traction the turf provided amplified the stress placed on the joints. There was no give or absorption of the force exerted, and in turn, all the force would be placed on tendons and joints, leading to injury. The foot would also get stuck in the turf, which would also lead to ankle and knee injuries. Head injuries also became more common, with the increased speed of the game and the turf's concrete-like surface leading to bigger collisions and harder falls. Players often remarked that playing on AstroTurf was like playing on solid concrete. Second-degree burns were now common on players' elbows from playing on the turf, and the introduction of one of the most debilitating injuries for a football player, turf toe began to spread like wildfire, ending careers of the NFL's toughest man, Jack Lambert, and shortening the careers of all-time greats like Larry Csonka. But in no stadium would the devastating effects of AstroTurf be felt than in the notorious Veterans Stadium.
Veterans Stadium, the glistening new home of the Eagles, was an optimistic sight for Philadelphia fans as 1971 began.
He said, we can't play on this field. This field is unsafe now. This is 1971, first game there. These are all the things we've heard now for the next 30 years.
But the biggest problem remained the turf.
We knew it was hard, we knew it was crazy. We knew it would cut you up. And I guess the more that they played on in the years that we played on, it got worse.
The whole league knows about the vet turf. There's two things you can get hit by: our defenders or our stadium. Veterans Stadium, home to the Philadelphia Eagles, and home to the most notorious turf in the NFL. The field had big seam gaps and bumps 3 inches high. Herman Edwards, former player for the Eagles, likened playing in Veterans Stadium to playing football on solid concrete with a rug pulled over it. Careers had been lost, years shaving off prominent careers, and what caused one of the most brutal injuries in NFL history.
They've had to bring the car to the rickshaw out. This time it's Wendell Davis, the Bear wide receiver, with the injury.
And they're looking at his right knee. It looks like he stopped to plant to go back, and his right knee just gave way.
As the Chicago Bears faced off against the Philadelphia Eagles, a typically injury-riddled game would ensue, with a man carted off seemingly on every other play, a sight all too common at Veterans Stadium. On a 1st and 10, quarterback Jim Harbaugh went back to pass, lobbing it up to receiver Wendell Davis. Davis slows down for the pass and attempts to reach up behind him when both of his knees give out and falls to the turf. He immediately reaches for his knees and is clearly in excruciating pain. As Davis went up for the football, his feet had gotten stuck into the AstroTurf, as if they were nailed into the carpet, causing both tendons in his knees to snap. Davis had severed the patella tendons in both of his knees. This would be the final play of Wendell Davis's career in the NFL. The same week, first overall pick Steve Emmittman, defensive tackle for the Indianapolis Colts, would tear his anterior cruciate ligament, medial collateral ligament, and patella tendon, all ripped violently on a non-contact play. The following week, Giants receiver Mike Sherrard partially dislocated his hip and fractured his hip socket after a catch at Veterans Stadium the following week. All were non-contact injuries that devastated these men's careers and brought the issue of the safety of turf once again to the forefront.
Remembered for a devastating injury. The slow motion replay is gruesome. The Veterans Stadium was picked as the worst surface, and by an overwhelming number of the players.
It was so sharp.
All week long they talked about having to play at the vet and having to play on that horrible turf. So it was in the back of their mind.
You don't want that turf monster or the seam monster to come bite you at an inopportune time.
In 1996, quarterback for the Eagles Rodney Peete tore his patella tendon, falling to the ground untouched during the drop back. And in 1999, one of the greatest receivers of his time, Michael Irvin, career would end as his head was driven into the concrete-like surface of the Vets AstroTurf. He would suffer from a cervical spine injury and would eventually be diagnosed with cervical spine stenosis. In 2000, Bears quarterback Cade McNown was slammed to the turf, causing a separated shoulder. And in 2001, a preseason game between the Eagles and Ravens was canceled due to safety issues concerning the turf.
Between the Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens has been canceled.
In 2004, Veterans Stadium was demolished. AstroTurf tormented men across the league, fearing their next cut may be their last. An offense would emerge in the late 90s that would use the AstroTurf's fast surface to their advantage. The greatest show on turf, as they would come to be known, led by undrafted quarterback Kurt Warner, running back Marshall Falk, and receivers Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt. During this 3-year stretch from 1999 to 2001, the greatest show on turf set several league scoring and yardage records, produced 3 consecutive NFL MVPs, and made 2 Super Bowl appearances, winning 1 championship. Offensive mastermind Mike Martz of the St. Louis Rams stated, "We would all love to see games only on grass, but on that old surface, guys could come out of cuts and change direction exceptionally fast. It was definitely a factor." In 2004, the Rams would be the final team to stop using Generation 1 AstroTurf.
Tonight's game is being played on perhaps the most talked about turf in college football. Now, it all started after the 5th down game when Coach McCartney complained that his players slipped on this surface no less than 92 times.
Yes, Texas A&M has the 12th man. Missouri has OmniTurf. Very slick surface. It has a sand base. Get very slick, and it will come into play.
Thanks, Brian. Put your spikes on and get ready to run around that field today.
Amidst the flurry of injuries caused by AstroTurf through the 70s and 80s, an innovation would be made in an attempt to make the surface more grass-like by adding a sand-based infill. It would fail to find a home in the NFL, and instead made its home at the University of Missouri in Farrott Field. And what was initially supposed to be an answer to the injury-plagued AstroTurf proved to be even more deadly. Where it would quickly earn the nickname, the Field of Screams. The turf was denounced by the Big 8 Conference. Colorado coach Bill McCartney stated, "He'd just as soon play in a parking lot than on that thing," saying the field was in such condition as to damage the integrity of the game. The slippery field often killed drives and caused devastating injuries to players. Heisman winner Rashaan Salam stated, "Each time you got tackled, it was like being hit twice, one by the player and once by the turf." And in 1994, the University of Missouri reverted back to natural grass. The Field of Screams was no more. The modern era of American football would usher in new innovations in artificial turf. The next generation turf used longer fibers. The longer fibers are then filled in with sand and recycled rubber. Bears receiver Wendell Davis, who suffered the famed injury at Veterans Stadium, stated that when he walked on his son's college football team's turf, it was like walking on pillows. It seemed as if the innovations made since artificial turf's first use in the NFL in 1969 were finally at an even keel as its grass counterparts. But that was far from the truth.
And the last thing, Mike, you know I'll say it, I've been waiting to say this all week. Can we get rid of mother effing field turf in football?
This is one reason why in a study covering more than 2,600 NFL games, ACL sprains were 67% more likely to occur on artificial turf than on natural grass.
And Phil, one player is saying he'd rather get struck by lightning than play on turf.
The playing surface. Yeah. You know, I was going to sue. How are we a professional? This is a multi-billion-dollar company, and we got a sticky surface.
Sterling Shepard officially did tear his ACL. Sterling Shepard has torn his ACL. His season is over.
Can we get grass fields in every stadium? You know, the great soccer players over in Europe won't even play. It's in their contract. They will not play on field turf.
But it feels like the turf injuries seem to be a lot more gruesome because of the lack of give.
We are ruining people's careers. We worry about, player safety and all that. None of the players like to play on field turf over grass. None. And I blame it on the turf and the NFL.
The New York field at Metlife, that's one of them, which is the worst field on the planet.
That one's not a fun one to play on.
The home of the New York Giants and the New York Jets. A stadium that would earn a reputation similar to that of the infamous Veterans Stadium.
As we've got an entry here at the 30-yard line going down, and that is Nick Bosa. So you already saw Garoppolo go down, but look at that injury update. Bosa, Thomas, Garoppolo, and Raheem Mostert as well out with that knee injury.
The San Francisco 49ers, coming off a Super Bowl appearance in 2019, faced off against the New York Jets led by Sam Darnold. Many expected this to be an easy win for the Super Bowl runner-ups, and it was just that, winning 31-13. However, a heavy price would be paid. Early in the first quarter, Jimmy Garoppolo would be hit from behind, causing him to injure his ankle and left knee. And with a flurry of big hits due to Greg Williams' hyper-aggressive defensive scheme, Garoppolo would go into the locker room early and would not return, suffering a high ankle sprain. Nick Bosa, with 6 minutes left in the first quarter, would get his cleat stuck into the turf and would tear his ACL, ending his season. Soon afterward, defensive end Solomon Thomas would fall to the turf, tearing his ACL and ending his season. Running back Raheem Mostert would sprain his MCL after being tackled and taken to the ground by Jets defenders. With 6 minutes left in the third quarter, Tevin Coleman would get hurt after being tackled near the sidelines. After the game, defensive end for the 49ers, Arik Armstead, told reporters, "Guys seem to be getting stuck into the ground, more than regularly. A bunch of our players went down. It wasn't real fun to be a part of and see happen to your teammates." And tweeting after the game, "At NFL, fix this trash MetLife turf. 2020 is so whack." The week prior, when the Steelers faced off against the New York Giants, James Conner injured his ankle and Zach Benner tore his ACL. An investigation would ensue that found that independent inspectors had checked the field prior to the game and said it was in compliance with all NFL policies. Unfortunately for the 49ers, no action was taken by the NFL, and as fate would have it, they would face the New York Giants the very next week in the same stadium. Jordan Reed would sprain his MCL, and linebacker Mark Nsiocha injured his quad. However, the 49ers were not the only ones that would face the wrath of the MetLife turf. In Week 1 of the 2022 season, the Baltimore Ravens would lose offensive tackle Juwan James and cornerback Kyle Fuller. Both would tear their ACL and be out for the season. Commanders center Tyler Larson tore his ACL in a game against the Giants. There was also friendly fire, with the Giants losing Jabril Peppers and Blake Martinez to ACL injuries. But more famously, the Giants would lose Sterling Shepard to one of the most bizarre injuries in recent history.
And Sterling Shepard is down and in a lot of pain at the Giants' 44-yard line.
While jogging downfield, Shepard jumped in the air, grabbed his knee, and fell to the ground. Former teammate Odell Beckham Jr. soon took to Twitter stating, "Just get rid of it all the together, bro. Billions made off this game. I can't understand why we can't play on grass. That is rough. Prayers up for my brother. Just hurt my heart." Later that season, rookie receiver Wendell Robinson tore his ACL going out of bounds, but the reign of terror of the MetLife turf would soon end.
The NFLPA wrote a letter calling for the immediate replacement and ban of slit film turf fields throughout the league.
This morning, the NFL Players Association is demanding that the league ban certain artificial turf fields in order to keep players safe. In a letter, the NFLPA is asking the league for an immediate ban on slit film turf fields, they're called, citing higher injury rates compared to other playing surfaces, specifically non-contact ankle and foot injury.
I mean, the data stands out. I mean, those numbers are staggering, the difference in injury rate.
Since the 1970s, the NFL Players Association repeatedly brought the issue of the safety of artificial turf, but to no avail, even bringing the issue directly to Congress 3 times in 1972, 77, and 78, but all for naught. But finally, someone would listen. NFLPA President J.C. Tretter would post a column citing studies that slit film turf leads to a higher percentage of non-contact injuries, missed time injuries, lower extremity injuries, and foot and ankle injuries. NFL and NFLPA experts both agreed on the data that slit film turf was in fact more dangerous to a player's health than alternatives. The issue with slit film turf is that the grass blades are not monofilament, single blades like real grass. Slit film has openings in the pieces resembling a net-like effect. These openings could potentially catch a player's cleat in the material. Soon afterward, and after the flurry of injuries the Giants endured, the team announced that they will be playing on a new surface in 2023 and getting rid of the slit film turf. Although the new surface will also be synthetic, slit film will be no more. The Detroit Lions, who also use slit film turf that drew lots of criticism from players around the league and members of their own team, decided they will also be changing their playing surface for the 2023 season.
That Bengal defense, which looked so good in the second half 2 weeks ago, the Rams traded 2 firsts, a third, and their quarterback Jared Goff. So they went all in. Nothing said that more than this trade. And finally, we are off and running in Super Bowl 56.
On the NFL's grandest stage, Odell Beckham Jr. would fall to the turf untouched at SoFi Stadium, and the media whirlwind would ensue.
To check him out.
With star players from around the league starting a petition to ban all turf from NFL stadiums, with the likes of Nick Bosa tweeting, "Every player is one play away from altering their career forever when playing on turf. I experienced the bad side of this, and it could have been avoided." Nick Bosa knew the damaging effects of artificial turf all too well. The hashtag #FlipTheTurf would soon begin to trend. Browns running back Nick Chubb would tweet, "90% of NFL players prefer real grass, including me. In 2020, I sprained my MCL on artificial turf." Odell's injury had brought the issue of artificial turf back to the forefront. How many more careers need to be cut short for the NFL to acknowledge this problem? Artificial turf was originally used in the NFL because growing grass was not possible in certain areas and stadiums, but that has all changed. Today we see grass fields in places like Arizona and Las Vegas. But now it's not the inability to grow grass that causes stadiums to stick with artificial turf. It is now all about money. The more events, the more revenue stadiums generate. Rather than being a player-first league, the NFL continues to allow inferior surfaces into stadiums, jeopardizing the careers of players who already risk their health playing a contact sport. The most dangerous sport in the world, where the most lethal aspect of the sport is the very foundation that all players run on. Something needs to be changed.